Let's work. Turn it down and listen to the experts. Gotta give a shout to the Talking Junk Network. Showing love, hosting battles, playing dope joints. The break room topics always staying on point. Never disappoint. We'll never need a makeover. We here for the takeover like Jehovah. Talking Junk break room takeover on the podcast. Dropping bomb facts on demand like Comcast. Now drop a comment whenever they're going live. Hit the YouTube channel right now and go subscribe. Peace.
Talking Junk Network,
where entertainment lives.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Me and my team, whenever we link up, they wanna be drink up. We sit down and relax and have few glasses when there's things to think about. Like I'm nice with the boss when I tend to the bars and I'm not talking drink ups. So tell the bartender that tend to the bar to please pass me a big cup up. And tell that waitress is waiting on us to put a little ice in it. Now watch the ice become weightless like the spaceships that I be sitting in. No wait and listen, no they're waiting for that tropical twist that'll tickle your taste buds. Now taste of. Now I insist it's the drizzle.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Friday night, except for the past couple of weeks because we was on a little bit of a vacation. Now we're here, coming back for the 2024 season, and what better way than to teach you a little bit about your anxiety and your trauma with the man himself, Mahesh Grossman. How you doing tonight?
Good, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, and I can't wait to soak up your knowledge because I, for one, am a big anxiety person, and there's a lot of anxiety in my family, and I'd like to try to control that. Now, I understand you're going to show us how to do so in 1 to 3 minutes.
I have a bunch of 1-minute solutions, and the 3-minute version is about how to find the underlying cause of anxiety at any given time. So there are two different kinds of things, but I'm the author of the 1-minute anxiety solution with 57 different ways to lower anxiety in a minute. I won't do all 57 here, I promise.
Hey, we'll have to set something up to where maybe we can get a little more time, maybe in person, and then we can get all 57 going.
Sounds good. Where are you located?
At the moment, I am in Connecticut.
I grew up across the Sound on Long Island.
I'm a New York boy too. I grew up in the Bronx.
Yeah, that's the one.
Here is the book. This is the book Mr. Grossman was just talking about, so be sure to go and grab that.
And you can find everything at anxiety123.com. I wanted to make it as easy as 123. So it's anxiety123.com because I listen to podcasts in my car and the elliptical and I never go to the page.
Yeah, because it's always an elaborate website and you'll never remember it when you get home if you're listening from your car. But this is very, very easy to remember. Very easy. Now, I did... Okay, so it does. Now, if you look on screen, it says berkeleyhypnosis.com. But if you type in anxiety123, that is the page it takes you to. So have no fear. Anxiety123.com is here.
Yep. So, one of the things I like to tell people about is what causes anxiety in the first place. And some people think there's such thing as general anxiety, just whatever the D stands for, disorder. And I think of anxiety more as a pattern matching allergy. And because
Okay.
and the story of that is, imagine you're a cave person and you're attacked by a woolly mammoth. And so you escape with the skin of your teeth, by the skin of your teeth. And, a few days pass and it's time to have dinner at Grandma's cave. So to go to Grandma's cave, have a great, I don't know what kind of dinner, but meat and vegetables dinner. And afterwards, everyone goes back to the back of the cave and sees Grandma's cave painting of a yellow horse. And you were attacked by the woolly mammoth near yellow grass. And so your brain makes a sloppy pattern match between the yellow of the grass and the yellow of the cave painting. And suddenly your whole body shifts into getting ready to fight or to flee or to freeze, anything that can make you safe. But it's not because you're not safe. It's because your brain, your what I call the cave brain, has made a sloppy pattern match. And so it's not a disorder, it's kind of a pattern match. And so
It's like muscle memory almost.
yeah, well, it's more like a mental version of muscle memory.
Right.
So, and you're not even aware of these things. Like the things that happen, your mind takes in millions of pieces of information that you don't even know it's aware of. So these sloppy pattern matches can happen at any time, and you're not even aware it's going on. So one of the main tricks for getting rid of anxiety, kind of the slower way, where you're not going to the root cause, but one item at a time, is you have to lower your anxiety enough to keep going at whatever's making you anxious. Because otherwise, if you stop what you're doing, let's say looking for a job makes you anxious, and so you're looking on whatever you look on these days. It used to be Craigslist, now it's Glassdoor or something like that. And you start, but you just can't do it. Excuse me.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fine. So at any rate, you look at Glassdoor, but you can't do it, and you're just getting all anxious. And so you go start looking on TikTok or something, and by the time 20 minutes pass, you've given up your hope of looking for a job at that point. Well, your cave brain, which is what I call the amygdala, which amygdala is a word that means almonds, because it's little almond-shaped things. So we have all these scientific words that are confusing, that aren't any smarter than any other words you could choose. I mean, literally, it's Greek for almond. So if you were Greek, amygdala would just be the almonds. So excuse me. Your cave brain, if you stop doing what made you anxious, your cave brain says, wow, I was great. I saved his life. And so I'm going to send more fight, flight, or freeze symptoms the next time he looks for a job. And, and that these pattern matches can make you, it can lead to agoraphobia, actually, where you're afraid to leave the house. Because one place makes you anxious. And then
Now, wouldn't that be an extreme cause of anxiety at that point?
That's like a lot of different anxieties that kind of link up, and it's extreme. But I think I saw that 368,000 people look up agoraphobia on the internet every month on Google. So it's not. It's possible. So you want to do whatever it is that makes you anxious. I'm going to take a cough drop here.
Yep. Take your time.
So the thing to do is you don't have to be completely free of anxiety to keep going at something, right? If you so let's say
You
you
just
have
have to know your triggers.
well, you know your triggers. You have to have some tools to lower your anxiety enough to keep going. See, the full version of your anxiety it's really rough. I mean, they talk about exposure therapy as the number one way to get through anxiety, but that's really rough.
Now, exposure therapy meaning expose yourself to the one thing that's giving you the anxiety.
Yeah, whatever makes you anxious, do it. And I agree, but there's a middle step, and the middle step is find some ways to lower your anxiety before you go for go straight to it. And sometimes I have a 1 minute anxiety, one quick win over anxiety challenge that comes with the ebook, and where you break down things into steps. So maybe you don't want to go all the way to whatever it is, asking somebody out, let's say, but maybe the first step is to say hi and just lower your anxiety enough to say hi without being anxious. So so that's kind of the process. But how do you lower your anxiety? Well, lots and lots of ways. I have 57, so I'm gonna share a couple with you. So is there an audio only version of this too, or is it just
There is an
okay?
audio only version of this too.
So on TikTok and Instagram, this is my most popular video. So I have to describe it for somebody who's listening. But it's a very simple thing that you do. You put your finger right at it's so funny. I've never looked at myself while I was doing it. Right at the top of above your eyebrow. I mean, below your eyebrow, but above your eye. And there's a ridge. It's called the occipital ridge. And what you're going to do is you're going to make the letter C around your eye like this. And then you can do it to the other eye. And then you just go back and forth like 3 times. So you're just making the letter C back and forth around both eyes. Somebody on TikTok said this by itself stopped a panic attack. And apparently some mothers knew about it and did this with their babies. But this is
Wow.
one really simple way to lower anxiety fast. That's maybe the least complicated way. Once you can figure out where your eye ridge is, you're gonna right under your eyebrow, around your eye. So that's one of my favorites for some things, but there are other ways that are good too. So another thing you can do is just when you're anxious, if you can notice where you feel it in your body. So and this is going to be part 1 of something else that we'll do later. But just notice where you feel. Think of a time you were anxious and notice where you feel it in your body. And then imagine there's a fire hydrant there, right in that spot of your body. And just then attach a fire hose. So let's say it's in your chest. You have a fire hydrant in your chest. There's a fire hose, and you're going to imagine the fire hose, and you're going to imagine holding the fire hose, and you're going to picture yourself at the Grand Canyon, standing there with the fire hose, and you can hold it, or you can have like superheroes hold it, or someone you love and trust can hold the fire hose. And what you're going to do is you're going to let the fire hose pour water into the Grand Canyon until the water hose starts to drip. So if you're listening in, you can do it right now, and just imagine the water coming out of the fire hose into the Grand Canyon. And sometimes there's a lot, and sometimes there's a little. My world record is I had a client who did it for 25 minutes nonstop.
Wow.
Yeah, yep. And I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, trying to be present, but boy, there's not a lot going on my side. And he did another one that took 25 minutes, but it was like perfect for him. But
Wow.
generally like 2 or 3, 1 to 3 minutes to just get it all out. But what happens universally, and this is very strange, but at some point when you've gotten all the water out, it drips. It drips just like when you turn off the shower, it drips. It drips. You'll see it in your mind dripping. And it's really strange that this just has happened every single time I've done it with someone. And sometimes if you have so much water, you fill up the Grand Canyon gets full, you can just imagine the Grand Canyon is draining. And that makes a difference. And then you can start over. You can because you can do it really fast in your mind, right?
Now, how did you come up with some of these techniques?
So I'm a hypnotherapist, and I started using them for myself. I knew there was a relationship between the tension in the body and that you could release the tension in the body. This fire hose thing, it was a multi-step process over a year and a half, where I started off with a spigot, then I changed it to a garden hose, then I changed it to a fire hose, and and it's like you had to choose between which one you needed. And then I said, the fire hose covers everything, right? You can, if you only have a little water, the fire hose still works. So that was one of the first big ones I would do, and it works for all kinds of things. I would.
Now, is the eye ridge thing hypnosis thing? Because it seems like it would be.
No, it's something else. Well, in the book I say where I got it from. In the moment, it's like, right over my head, but it's a piece of somebody else's process that I've turned into a back and forth movement. So,
Okay.
but the first time I did it, I was like, whoa. If you've ever rubbed a rabbit's nose, they like totally freeze. At least the ones I've been around have done that. And so that's what I felt. I just felt totally flat and relieved by that. And
Now,
right.
In your hypnotherapy sessions, do you get a lot of people that have just anxiety disorder, or are there multiple types of disorders that you try to treat with your hypnotherapy?
Well, I don't call them disorders because I'm not a big fan of labeling things. But I get a lot of people with phobias, fear of driving, claustrophobia. I had a woman with needle phobia, and I'll tell her story in a minute. And she was a diabetic, so she was crying.
Oh,
She was crying every time she pricked her fingers or had a needle. So that was like 8 times a day, and
right.
So phobias, all kinds of stuff around healing trauma. I do things like pain management, but I mostly, anxiety is under everything. You want to know what's under weight loss? Anxiety, right? You overeat because you're eating because you're trying to push something down that's not comfortable. You're smoking because you're trying to push something down that's not comfortable. So, and even pain management has kind of a trauma element to it a lot of the time, where there's something that happened in the past that you didn't fully process. And the mind and the body aren't just connected. They're one thing. The mind only has one canvas, right? The only thing the mind can paint on is your body. It has nothing else solid to paint on, to express itself on. So it shows up in pain management too. And lately the new theory is it's not the mind-body connection. It's the mind-body organism. The whole thing is one thing.
Right, because essentially you're just your brain in a shell.
Yeah. Well, and your brain and your shell, your brain and it's just related. It's just it's all one thing.
Right. Now, you mentioned the lady with the needles. Did you ever hear of something so simple in your everyday life? I'll give an example. Like, I don't remember if it was Dr. Phil or if it was some stupid shit like Jerry or something. But I know they had people on with these horrible phobias. And some lady was scared of pickles. Another lady was scared of mustard. Is there something out of the ordinary like that you've treated?
I didn't quite finish because she didn't come back a second time. But this woman had a fear of mice,
Okay.
and every time you'd say the word mice to her, she'd grab her throat. And so I did all these things with her from her life, and nothing worked. And then I said, well, let's try a past life. And the first time that didn't work either. The second time, though, and back then I did a process where you'd like kind of walk across a rainbow bridge, whatever that means to you. I stopped using it because it didn't mean anything to me. So I could never see the rainbow bridge exactly in a way I felt comfortable.
Rainbow Bridge takes you to Valhalla.
Yeah, that's true.
Takes you to Asgard.
But for me, it was like, because what it does is that you cross the rainbow bridge and you start noticing your feet.
Okay.
And when you get to the end of the bridge, you look down at your feet. And your feet may not look, most of the time, they don't look like your current feet. In her case, she looked at her feet and she saw that they were swan feet. Which is
Swan feet.
Yeah, it was the very first time I ever had a client who, when they did this process, saw a past life. I mean, an animal life. So I'm all right. And I was happy it was a swan because I could kind of talk about what swans do. Later on, I had a guy who had a buffalo, and I was like, oh, God, what am I going to ask him? I don't know what a buffalo does. I mean, I've been around swans. I'm always near the water.
Now, the lady with the swan, did you find out that that swan that she was died for choking on a mouse?
Close. What we did was went through the day. She talked about swimming in the water, and she said it was nice, but it was dirty, which is very interesting. And then she went to sleep. And while she was sleeping, a whole crew of mice came and ate her by the neck.
Oh, my God.
Which was why every time you'd say mouse, she would touch her neck. We needed one more session, but she never came back because you have to get the part of you. See, I mean, past lives are just like regular lives, right? There's
who knows? You probably broke her and she's in a pond right now swimming like a swan.
No, she's good. She moved to New York. She was afraid of the rats and mice that she would see on the subway.
So she moved to New York.
Yeah. But no, that's what she was doing. That's why she wanted to know how to get rid of this. But the way these things work is you also have to talk to the part of the person that's protecting them, right? By giving them the phobia and let them know that they can, move on, that they're not the same person anymore and they're safe. And that she was safe. We didn't get to do that part of it. But that's what you do with like the 7-year-old part of someone that, is afraid of anger, let's say. It's like, if I get angry, then I'm going to die. Then somebody's going to come and beat me if I get angry or whatever it is that their thing is. So,
have you ever had to treat somebody for anger disorder?
Yes. That was, someone came to me for anger management. And here's another interesting, slightly weird thing. So I'll preface this with an explanation, which is we all take in stuff from our parents and other people. We all take in kind of things that don't belong to us. So there's something called epigenetic psychology, where you actually inherit things like unprocessed trauma from your grandparents and your parents that happened before you were born. It actually goes into the sperm and the egg, and there's all kinds of studies on this. There's a woman named Rachel Yehuda who's very big in this, and then there's a book called "It Didn't Start with You" by Mark Wolin. So that's one element of it, but you're also like, as an infant, you pick up on this unconscious of the parents. And also just, day-to-day life, you absorb unprocessed stuff. Well, this person...
Right. You're like a sponge when you're that, yeah.
So give me 1 second, I take a drink of water.
Yep, take your time.
But we were working on different things. And eventually what happened, there was a scene where this person was just yelled at by his mother really hard. And he took in all her anger at that point. And that was that was the root cause. And once we took that out, there's kind of nice hypnotic techniques where you can pull that stuff out. The anger was gone. So yes, so anger management for sure.
I may have to see you for one of those sessions.
That'd be cool.
Now, where are you located at the moment?
I'm near Berkeley, California, in Richmond,
Okay.
California, or near San Francisco, depending on where people know of, but certainly near San Francisco.
Okay. Now, you do have a practice out there. Where can we find your practice if we're in the California area?
Well, I'm doing everything through Zoom.
Okay.
But you can set up a free, consultation at anxiety123.com. That's my kind of link tree page.
Now, is it harder to do hypnosis over the web than it would be in person?
No, it's first off, when I work with people, their eyes are closed a lot of the time, so it doesn't matter whether they're, in person or someplace else. And there's some phenomenon that happen back and forth that have happened, whether somebody was in Australia or whether they were here.
Okay. Now, you mentioned just before we got on that there were some techniques that you'd like to try today.
Yeah. So there's, as I said, there's two ways of handling anxiety. One way, or anything else that's trauma related. One way we've already spoken about, which is the method to just lower it and keep going and until you're no longer anxious about that thing, right? You keep doing it without any harmful events. You're training your brain that it's safe to do that. And that's great. That's a little bit of the slow way. But there's a faster way, which is to find out the original cause of what happened to you. So I'll tell you the story of the needle phobia woman who actually, we did this piece of work before I was even a hypnotherapist. But I said to her, look, we never actually met. It's really funny. We were friends for years till she passed. And she was the mom of a major league center fielder, all-star center fielder for my favorite baseball team. And I wanted to kind of work with her on a book because I was a ghostwriter back then. And
come on, you can't tell us that he was a all-star outfielder of your favorite baseball team and not tell us the team or the player.
Okay, it was Adam Jones from the Orioles.
Okay.
And his mom just said the greatest things. She'd say things like, ass down, heads up, ass down, you'll be greater later. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And we ought to try and do a book called Secrets of the Major League Moms, How to Be a Great Parent to an athletically talented kid. But
Definitely so.
Yeah, and except it never worked. We didn't get around to it, and that was another thing. But through that, we somehow became really good friends. And like, if you're Manny Machado, who became a major star, was drafted, and one night she just Facebook messaged me, "It's 5-12. Do you think he's going to sign?" and that's how we became friends. But one day she told me that, hey, I cry every time before I do a needle. I said, well, I can help you with that. And so what we did was this exactly the process I'm going to do with you, which is I had her I'll tell you that you had her notice, think about her fear of a needle, which you won't think about that, but anxiety, let's say. And just notice where she felt in the body and notice how old she was the first time she had that feeling in her body.
So should I close my eyes and
I'm
do this
just telling you her story right now. We'll do it.
Okay.
And when she did, she went back to when she was 3 years old, and the doctor and the mother brought her in. And she was diagnosed with diabetes all time. And she had to get a shot. And like any normal 3-year-old, she resisted.
Right.
And every time they tried to give her a shot, it didn't work. And they just started yelling at her, both of them. and she was crying. So every time she got a shot or pricked her finger, it wasn't about a fear of the shot. It was about sorry.
No, take your time.
It was about excuse me. I keep thinking I'm better, but it gets worse at night. It's been 15 days.
Oh, so you've had COVID.
No, it's not COVID.
Oh.
Not COVID. It's just a cough. Just whatever. No fever, no nothing.
Hopefully it's not that RSV thing.
Yeah. At any rate, when she would take these shots and finger pricks, she just felt incredibly unloved. So after we did this, which took 10 minutes to get there, she spent a week just calling her friends beforehand, letting them tell her they loved her. And she got over her fear of needles. As things progressed, she was able to get off of insulin. She lost 160 pounds because of getting her blood sugar under control. And that was, a really massive thing in her life. So these things, when you find what the underlying cause of anything is and you begin to heal that, the old story that's bruised you, which is for most anxiety, that's the case. There's something that you're protecting yourself from. You're able to overcome it. You're able to get past that root cause so it doesn't bother you anymore. Now, you may have kind of automatic reactions, but they're not upsetting. So, like, maybe something makes you cry. Like, there's certain things that make me cry on TV, like software, like automatically. So, like, I watch, if somebody gets acknowledged on a TV show, there's some tears that show up. It doesn't bother me. I don't have like this emotional feeling. It's just this automatic response, but it doesn't affect my life anymore. So when you get to the root cause of things, you suddenly are able to do the things that anxiety has been stopping you from, or do the things that you did but still had anxiety without the anxiety. So I'm going to take everybody through this. If you're driving, maybe, well, you don't have to close your eyes. You may get there anyway, but I probably don't do this while you're driving. But just
So if you're driving right now, either turn us off and wait for later, or pull over and enjoy.
Yeah, and you don't even have to turn it off. You just don't do the exercise. Don't do the process. So, Jason, take a moment and think about something that recently made you anxious or triggered.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just close your eyes and just notice where you feel that in your body and follow along. Do that, find your thing if you're watching or listening. And then just notice where you feel it in your body. And tell me where you feel that.
Straight through my chest.
Great. So now what we're going to do is you're going to notice that feeling. And I'm going to ask you to notice how old you were the first time you had that sensation. Were you 10 or under, or 11 or older?
10 or under.
Great. 5 to 10 or under 5?
Under 5.
Yeah, good. 0 to 2 or 3 to 5?
3 to 5.
Great. 3, 4, or 5? And if you don't know, you can pick 4 and you won't be far off.
I was leaning to 3, but 4 seems about right.
Great. So now you know you're 4 years old. And now here's the questions to ask yourself. And by the way, if you go to anxiety123.com, this is this is a free report that gives you all the whole script in my emotional overload first aid kit. at anxiety123.com. So you're 4 years old. And where are you? Home or someplace else?
Home.
Inside or outside?
Inside.
And where are you?
In my bedroom.
Great. And you're upset. So is there somebody else there you're upset with, or are you upset about something even though no one's there?
An event.
Yeah, what happened?
Something with my father.
Okay, good. And are you able to say what it was, or is it too private?
No, yeah. It's probably one of my earliest memories. I don't remember what happened or why it happened, but I remember my mom moving me out the way so I didn't get hit with a belt buckle.
Okay, good. So let's tell your dad. Are you hurt, mad, or sad? Hurt, sad, or scared?
Sad, scared, and confused.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about? So I'm not going to take you the whole way through this process, and we'll do something to relieve it. But one of the things, but there is a little place that I want to go to here. Just do you want to say, Dad, it really hurt me? I mean, yeah, it hurt me, made me feel sad when you blank, or Dad, it really scared me when you blank.
I don't know.
Well, you heard it. You scared or sad? Let's start
A
with
little bit of both.
Yeah. Which would you like to do? We can only do one at a time.
Okay, so let's go with scared.
Yeah, Dad, it really scared me when you
Dad, it really scared me when you
did
try
that.
to whack me with a belt buckle.
Yeah. Good. So now picture your dad.
Okay.
Just say it to him again. Dad, it really scared me when you did that. We'll make it simple this time.
It really scared me when you did that.
And what does he say or do?
Man up.
What is it? Nothing? What did you
Man
say? Give me one second. Let him react. And I'll give you a hint. It's not going to be, I'm sorry.
Really, it's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, there you go. That's really what happens. Because here's what we're doing. We carry these moments inside us, and they're etched in stone. And we say these things to these inner parents. And they don't say, I'm sorry, I love you, you're a great kid. I never should have done that. They make excuses, or they get mad that you're even challenging them, or they look away, or they say, that's what my father did to me, or whatever it is. And so the work I do with people is to get either these parents or bullies or whoever it is that you're dealing with to say to the point where, because they live inside you, right? It's not them, it's a part of you that's saying, get the fuck out of here. It's not,
Right.
your dad is not here. But it's inside you, and you're carrying this get the fuck out of here inside you, and it's really causing the anxiety for this particular thing. So we get ways of transforming either the actual parent. Sometimes the parent is too hard to bear, so we use something called the understudy. So in today's performance of your life, your dad is going to be played by Brad Pitt or Tom Hanks. And then or some loving figure from your life. And when you then say that it really hurt me, they'll say something different, or, there's different ways of healing it. But this makes the hugest difference in healing anxiety. And, there's not just one item. It's like we go
So
back.
it's basically you're substituting in your mind's eye for somebody that you can get the comfort from, rather than trying to get the comfort from somebody you're never going to get it from.
Well, no, because a lot of the times it is the dad, but we have to heal the dad first. So depending on your relationship with your dad and how etched in stone the difficult version of him was. But what we're really doing, because we're not dealing with your dad, we're dealing with a part of you that is not loving you, that's not unconditionally loving you. And so what we're doing is we're changing that that aggressive part to a loving part of yourself. And when you do that, it heals a lot. And then what we do is we go back, because it's more than once. So like you have that feeling in your chest, we go back to your chest and say, oh, is there anything left? And then we keep going with different kinds of things. Now, just to, I know we're out of time, but just so I don't leave people hanging. Yeah, let's just do that fire hose thing again, where that feeling in your chest is. So just imagine a fire hose right there. Fire hydrant attached to the fire hose. Bring the fire hose to the Grand Canyon. Just let the water out into the Grand Canyon.
You can't drink the water, Mr. Grossman. You got to let me let it out.
Okay. And you just see the water filling up the Grand Canyon until you get to a point where it either drips, or if the Grand Canyon fills, you can kind of drain the Grand Canyon and then let it keep going until your hose drips.
I'll make sure to only wave my hose twice so I don't play with it on camera.
I knew that was coming.
Now these are some great exercises, and I wish we had more time to get in depth. I have a show that usually airs right after this called The Break Room. I'd love to invite you on one day, and we'll go through this with the whole cast and crew. There's about 6 or 7 of us, and you'll have about 2 hours to show us all the things that you have.
That sounds good. In the meantime, I have 57 different ways to lower anxiety in the 1-minute anxiety solution at anxiety123.com. And
so make sure you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
And this whole process, it's a I have a free step-by-step version of the process we just did at anxiety123.com.
So get yourselves over to anxiety123.com and get this information now, because what are you waiting for? This whole world burns on anxiety. So stop burning yourselves day by day. Get this book and learn how to control it.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, Mahesh. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait for our next meeting.
Sounds good. Me too. Thanks, Jason. I can wait until my cough goes away, though.
Definitely. We want you feeling 100% before you come back on and dazzle us with your skills.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grossman. You have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You see, I told you, it's going to keep on going. Nothing's going to change for 2024. We're going to have great guests on for you every week, giving you this knowledge of life so you can take it, evolve it, use it, share it, just like us. Like, share, and subscribe right there on your screen. We will love it, because the only way to keep these things going are for you to share the love, just like we do. See you next week with another great guest, because this show will never die. We're going to keep going, giving you this information every week. You know why? Because we love you. Peace out.